So the 53-year dictatorship of Bashar Assad has come to an end. In Syria, now what new policies are the new government under Giuliani, what are they going to implement? The world anxiously awaits, but Israel and America right now is bombing Syria some more. So whenever you're in doubt, just bomb them, right? Just bomb them all. Are you shipping 1 million of those things? Then ship them all. We're going to take them on a whole new door. Giuliani, Gobachi, you know, he used to be ISIS, and then he was Al-Qaeda, and then now he's an HTS, pragmatist, HTS. Are you fucking kidding me? You got to keep it fresh, right? You got to just rebrand, put some shiny silver little trimmings and ornaments on that ass. J.D. Vance used to be a communist at Yale and transgendered cross-dresser. So you got to rebrand, right? If at first you don't succeed, try again. You don't lose by falling off the horse. You win by getting back on the horse. Michael Jordan says he's not successful because he's won a whole bunch of times. He's lost over and over again. So Giuliani is an ex-Al-Qaeda guy. Ex-Al-Qaeda. Head chopper. But he denounced Al-Qaeda, so we're cool now, right? He's just purely mujahideen. Just like the freedom fighters who fought for Ronald Reagan in the 1980s in Afghanistan against the USSR. So that means he's more bin Laden than Nelson Mandela. But he's denounced David Duke. I mean, he's denounced Al-Qaeda. You got to put lipstick on that pig. You got to work it, swine. Work it, twerk it, and then flip it around and reverse it. December 4th, 2024. 5 days ago, you had fierce clashes erupted in the Hama province as the Syrian army engaged Islamist-led insurgents in a bid to halt their advance in the key city of Hama. Government forces claim to have launched a counteroffensive with air support, pushing back rebel factions including the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS. Oh, okay, so he's HTS now. Not Al-Qaeda, not ISIS. He was born in the Golan Heights. So that means, according to birthright citizenship, he's a Golan Haitian, right? Government forces have claimed to launch a counteroffensive, but it didn't work. Assad is going to step down. I think he's in Moscow right now. And now you got this Giuliani. Who is this Giuliani? I got a little speech here. I got some more details. But despite the reinforcements, the rebels captured the city on December 5th. The fighting led to widespread displacement with nearly 50,000 people fleeing the area and over 600 casualties reported, including 104 civilians. December 7th, 2024, Assad fled the capital of Damascus just before its fall to the rebels. So it's weird that you got so many people that are celebrating the fall of Assad without recognizing, that today Giuliani, he's HTS, but he celebrated himself in that speech as a mujahideen. He had that celebratory speech, which I will get to, and I'm also going to get into some more details of this whole thing, because this is a fucking mess. This is such a mess. But the mujahideen was the fighting force under bin Laden, or bin Laden was a part of it in Afghanistan. 9/11 happened because it was blowback, because we had financed the Mujahideen to fight the USSR in Afghanistan, and then they were just pissed off at the great evil West, and then they're flying planes into 9/11. Am I the only one who remembers 9/11? Are we supposed to never forget? Isn't that what we were told? Never forget. Never ever forget. Well, I haven't forgotten, and then I also remember the Bush, the NSA programs, and then all this shit that was shoved, the 2001 authorization to use force, 2002 authorization to use force. 2002 was for Iraq, and the 2001 was for the enemies that had perpetuated 9/11. So that would be two main groups, Al-Qaeda and Saudi Arabia. 17, 16, most of the hijackers in the plane came from Saudi Arabia. And Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was the fucking danger, right? I also heard that Al-Qaeda meant, it was a CIA-funded group, which just meant the core or the group or something like that. This is the reason why Giuliani has got a $10 million warrant from the United States. The United Nations has a $10 million warrant on his head, dead or alive, and that's still active. $10 million for this Jolani guy. But everybody's saying, hey, today's a great day for Syria. Even though, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. Assad has been removed. Today's a great day. I feel like we're between a rock and a hard place. You got the severe dictatorship, and then you got a whole bunch of, you know, extremism isn't bad by itself, but you have ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Martin Luther King says, be an extremist for justice, be an extremist for peace, be an extremist for love. So, you know, the whole damn rhetoric about extremism is actually totally fucking wrong. What are you being extreme about? I saw one video where there were some Christians that was getting kicked in the head. Is this going to be the Taliban? Is this going to be, you know, we're going to have a whole bunch of Christians and women being oppressed? And then America and Israel, not only is America and Israel, America just dropped 75 bombs in the desert of Syria, purportedly to bomb ISIS. So we're carpet bombing the desert in Syria to bomb ISIS. Okay, so he's rebranded himself. He's not ISIS anymore. I think he only flirted with ISIS, but then he became full-on Al-Qaeda. He was born in the Golan Heights. He had fought against the occupation of America in Iraq. And then he put on a suit, and then people started warming up to him. And then the Pentagon was financing some other terrorist, and then you had also the CIA was financing different terrorists. I thought we had a war on terror. Wonder that the 2001 authorization to use military force was to go after Al-Qaeda and to go after Saudi Arabia. But we're bombing fucking, you know, Yemen, Syria, fucking... We still bombing Somalia? What about Sudan? I don't totally understand all of this, and I'm not sure if anybody understands, you know, this whole fucking thing. Because by bombing ISIS, let's presume he's a pragmatist, you know, he's an HTS pragmatist, right? He's a Mujahideen pragmatist now. Since Jolani is a Mujahideen pragmatist, well then bombing ISIS technically would be helping him. They're also bombing chemical depots. By bombing chemical depots, doesn't that fucking just blow up all those chemical weapons? So everybody that's around, you got fucking sarin gas in the United States. We'll say at the Bluegrass Depot, and there's some other places. And then what Israel's doing, Israel's taking over the Golan Heights, right? Jolani was born in the Golan Heights, but that was given, you know, by Donald. Donald went ahead and gave them the Golan Heights. So Israel says they're strengthening their security measures, but actually they've already invaded like 5 little towns around Syria. So technically speaking, they've actually invaded a little bit of Syria. So Jolani is the new military dictator of Syria. Jolani was born to a family originally from the occupied Golan Heights, fought in the Iraq insurgency against the American occupation. He served 5 years in an American-run prison in Iraq. He was in fucking, was it Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib? He was in one of the fucking prisons for a while. Then he returns to Syria as the emissary of the Islamic State founder Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Just keep rebranding. And even though I'm trying to be somewhat, you know, cheekish about all these things, if you don't laugh, you would cry, because this is scary as shit. You're between a rock and a hard place. Okay, you can celebrate the fall of Assad, but I don't see how you could say that this Jolani is going to bring about, you know, democracy and a Bill of Rights and 3 branches of government. This isn't classical liberalism. This isn't anti-fascism. This isn't communism. We're going to establish another theocracy. We're going to establish a what is going to happen in Syria? Joe Biden says some things. Let's take a look at what this video here of Jolani is going to give a victory speech. So let's watch Jolani's victory speech and see if we can glean anything from this. He definitely mentions the Mujahideen. He's a big lover of God, right? Isn't that what the problem with America is? We took God out of the schools. So that guy is Jolani. There are a lot of people that's around the Capitol that seems to be celebrating the fall of Assad. Kept tagging. It's only a minute long. Thanks to the historic Mujahideen. Did you just see that? Thanks to the historic Mujahideen. Thanks to Bin Laden's old group. Perhaps I don't know exactly what a Mujahideen is. So we'll take a look at and see what Mujahideen exactly is. Tyranny of the oppressor. Allah is the greatest. God is the greatest, right? All thanks to God, that invisible man in the clouds. The great spirit of ultimate goodness. I can support the great spirit of ultimate goodness. Alright, so I think that's enough. So you saw how he says, thanks to the historic Mujahideen. Thanks to the historic Mujahideen. So perhaps the Mujahideen isn't just Bin Laden and that group in Afghanistan. Let's see exactly. Mujahideen. You have AI. Google says it refers to Muslims who fight for their faith or the Muslim community. The term is the plural of the Arabic word mujahid, which means a person who wages an Islamic holy war. So this is the response to the Crusades. Wasn't that what Bush had said, that invading Iraq was a crusade? In Islam, jihad is the fight on behalf of God, religion, or the community. So it's been used in a variety of ways. You got the Afghan Mujahideen, and then you got the Mujahideen-e-Kolek, MEK, which has global membership between 5,000 and 10,000, and it's got offices in Paris and European capitals. So there you go. I guess Mujahideen doesn't just mean the Afghanistan Mujahideen, but this makes me nervous all around, because it's like, okay, great, Assad has been toppled, but now the Mujahideen is in power, and then I hear everybody supporting it, you know, from Joe Biden to Ilhan Omar to... Ilhan says, we're witnessing a historical moment in Syria. The Assad regime will be remembered as one of the most brutal, repressive dictatorships. This is a watershed moment for Assad's victims, millions of refugees, and the Syrians who have been fighting for years for a more just and free government. As someone who fled my home country after the fall of a brutal dictatorship when I was 8, my hopes and dreams are that the Syrian people will find prosperity, stability, and a lasting peace. While the future is uncertain, I remain optimistic that a brighter future can be paved. Solidarity with the Syrian people as they continue to struggle for their own future. So that's Ilhan Omar. Then you have President Biden says new opportunities are now opening up for the people of Syria and for the entire region. Looking ahead, the United States will do the following. First, we're going to engage with the Syrian groups, including within the process led by the United Nations, to establish the transition away from the Assad regime toward an independent, sovereign Syria. So the United Nations, the same entity that has a $10 million hit on Jolani, so they're going to try to bring in a transition. If somebody has a $10 million warrant on somebody else, you think that guy is going to listen to what the fuck you say? You would think that you would be skeptical of the ones that's issuing, and then it's still out there. And I think it was Donald that put it, right? Donald's the one that moved the Jerusalem thing, the Abrahamic Accords, Golan Heights. He bombed Syria just like Obama bombed Syria, just like Biden bombed Syria a whole bunch of times, big time back in February. Second, Joe Biden says, we will help to ensure stability in the eastern Syria, protecting our personnel against any threats. We will maintain our mission against ISIS. Third, we'll support Syria's neighbors, including Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, and Israel. Lebanon and Israel bombing Lebanon, and then Iraq. We had bombed in Iraq, and they were pissed off about the bombings that we did. Biden did back in February. Should any threat arise from Syria during this period of transition, And then finally, we will remain vigilant. I thought we don't want vigilante justice. Isn't that what that denied, deposed, delay guy, that claims adjuster? And then we're going to ignore the 2 murders that happened in New Haven, Connecticut, right? People are saying that there's no such thing as a perfect crime. Well, no, there is such thing as a perfect crime. In New Haven, Connecticut, you had 2 guys, Uzziah Shell and Daley Jackson, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, gunned down in broad daylight just within a block of one another. They were violence interrupters. So we're going to take young men and then we're going to put them out into the community. So just by their charisma, we're going to have them try to solve the violent fucking issues that's going on when the fucking state and the cops and the fucking... I don't see how any of this helps the working class. How does this help the working class? Free Syria is going to be annexed by Israel. So that means all the groups that America and the CIA and the Pentagon has been financing, they're going to take those pieces of Syria. When you think about Greater Israel is going to take a piece of Egypt. They're going to take a big chunk of Saudi Arabia. They're going to take some Syria. They're going to take Palestine. They're going to take a whole bunch of countries right there because, well, the Bible says, do you even know if Abraham was fucking real? Do you even know if Moses was fucking real? Yeah, he just said, part the Red Sea with his hands. And then the Red Sea just parted. He had frogs raining from the sky. He had goddamn grasshoppers. He turned the river into blood. He took his staff and turned it into snakes. That doesn't sound like a bunch of bullshit to you? And then Abraham, what he did with his daughters, what he did with his fucking son. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, you want to hope for the best, but get prepared for the worst. The best would be get the best damn constitution ever written. Make sure you have all the 8 powers to stop tyranny. You need a bicameral government, a bicameral House, Senate, and a House of Representatives. You need enumerated powers, federalism, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 3 branches of government, and the rule of law. We need brand new presidential elections ASAP, right? Maybe by January 10th or something. Dictator and the regime. So you have what? They keep saying, well, the dictator's been toppled of the past Syrian regime. Well, what about the emperor regime? What about the emperor, the dictator? What about, Emperor Palpatine? The Emperor of America, Donald, had bombed Syria. The Emperor of America, the dictator, Obama, bombed Syria. The Emperor today, Biden, bombed Syria. Donald just said something, let's just get out. Donald just keeps on saying a bunch of... George W. Bush said that we shouldn't be into regime change, and then he got into office and did regime change. Biden is bombing ISIS in Syria right alongside Israel, so Israel's bombing, America's bombing, and we're saying it's ISIS, so just believe it's ISIS, and then who cares if the chemical weapons just affects everybody in the damn neighborhood? 75 targets, so carpet bombing. Isn't that what we did in Vietnam? Just fucking napalm village after village. 4 million dead in 4 million dead in Vietnam, 1 million dead in Iraq. It's being said that Israel's bombing chemical weapons depots back in February 2024. Biden had bombed both Syria and Iraq. Civilians were killed in Iraq. Bombings drew an angry reaction from Iraq itself, which summoned the U.S. envoy to protest and said that the strikes on Iraqi soil had killed civilians and it risked destabilizing the region. Biden couldn't even get us a public option. He couldn't get us the Employee Free Choice Act. You got homeless people living in the fucking sewers. You got everybody in Congress fucking rolling dice on Wall Street and the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. Is that not a conflict of interest if you're married to the fucking stock market? So it looks like we're helping Jolani, we're supporting Jolani, Jolani's Mujahideen, which apparently is just a word that means a holy war for God and the religion and the community. So it's not just the Afghanistan and the Bin Laden thing, so it's not Al-Qaeda no more. He denounced Al-Qaeda, guys. He used to be Al-Qaeda. He fought with them for years, but he's not Al-Qaeda anymore. Oh, okay, cool. Is the war on terror still going on? Because I would think that Saudi Arabia and Al-Qaeda would be the main targets for the war on terror. But apparently the war on terror is just bomb whoever the damn U.S. government thinks are their enemies. So we can install McDonald's so we can suck out their raw materials and put a fucking McDonald's and put a bunch of fucking Baskin Robbins, a bunch of corporations all over the place, so we can give them a health care group so they can get some health insurance that doesn't cover anything that they're doing. Biden says that, when you hit 85 targets over 30 minutes, it sends a strong signal about the capability. Oh no, the official. A strong signal about the capability that we have. There's other things we're going to do. Some you will see and some you won't see. What are the things that we're not going to see? February 2024, fighter jets from America hit Houthi rebel drones in Yemen too. So we kind of took that opportunity to bomb some of Syria, bomb some of Iraq, bomb some of Yemen. This is how we maintain the peace? This is how we maintain the peace, huh? Could you imagine just bombing a country or bombing a town in America and then, 10 civilians got killed. The sarin gas depot blew up and then people around it are getting gassed. Israel's massively bombing Latakia in Syria right now, a city that stood for over 4,000 years. What has Latakia ever done to anybody? For 4,000 years? So Israel, used to be there 2,000 years ago, but Latakia has been there for 4,000 years. Israel bombed the tomb of Simon Peter. That was the rock of which Jesus was going to build his church from. Israel's literally annihilating Syria, and the West is celebrating it as liberation. The Israeli military said it helped UN peacekeepers based in the region to stave off several armed men over the weekend, but would not interfere in Syria's internal events. Of course not, because why would they do something like that? They are fair and square. They're not doing a genocide. What, 400,000 Palestinians dead? That's not a genocide. That's like, they're just stealing the land. They're just giving them an opportunity to move into the fucking Mediterranean and would simply keep certain areas of the Golan Heights closed to and act as a buffer zone. Lebanon opened their borders up. Why? Because you got Syrians that would probably like to go home. So that's interesting. Lebanon opens their borders, so that way the refugees could go back to their homes, and then Israel says, nope, nobody from Israel could go there, nobody from Syria could come here. Netanyahu seemed to be excited about the whole damn thing. Lebanese authorities have instead opened the border crossing in anticipation of a reverse flow of refugees seeking to return home after years away. It will presumably lose its valuable military bases in Syria. So we have military bases, Russia does, Lebanon. There's a lot of, who's the winners, who's the losers. It almost kind of seems like everybody's going to lose this. It reminds me of Jon Stewart when Hamas got elected. George W. Bush pushed for elections, and the Palestinians voted for Hamas. The Fatah party was fucking outdated, and they didn't run a good campaign. Hamas won that election. And Jon Stewart was like, Hamas? Like, holy shit. Butcher, tyrant. You see how that shit turned out. And then Afghanistan, we occupied it for 20 years, and then the Taliban just came back anyways. Butcher, tyrant, murderous regime. Talk about butchers, talk about tyrant, talk about a genocidal regime. I don't trust anyone who uses these terms. This is from Medhurst against the Global South. So they'll use it for thee, but not for thee, for we, right? You're the murderous butchers, tyrannical, murderous regimes. When a lot of U.S. presidents have a higher body count. When Donald Trump got into office, immediately he drone striked an American girl in Yemen. Immediately, as soon as he got into office. Not to mention the dungeons in the despotic regions of Egypt and Jordan and the Gulf, which are mysteriously never talked about. So our senators love the Mujahideen. Hey, it's a brand new day in Syria. The Mujahideen is in power. Al-Qaeda has taken power. ISIS has taken power. Nobody, it's HTS now. Just believe HTS. It's like Blackwater. Blackwater called themselves something else. It's not Blackwater, it's something else. Here's Ralph Nader on Gaza. Gaza is now the world capital of child amputation, and that doesn't even cover the true horror. Because Israel blocks any anesthesia from entering Gaza as a means of imposing further agony on the population that they are subjecting to genocide. Former senior UN human rights official Craig Mockeber had said. So what the hell is going on? In 2015, Moscow intervened militarily to back the Assad regime in the civil war, dropping bombs on civilian targets, adding to its unpopularity among the citizens. Russia particularly values its naval base at Tartus, which allows it to support warships in the Mediterranean Sea. The Alawite sect in Syria, an offshoot of Shiite Islam amounting to perhaps 10% or more of Syrians, will not be at risk. Right? Those who supported Assad. So what's going to happen to the Alawites? What's going to happen to the Christians and the Buddhists and the Zoroastrians? The Assadists were Alawites, and the Alawites were resented for the privileges they enjoyed. So you're going to see repression, maybe, most likely, against women, against Christians, against the Alawites. At long last, the Assad regime has fallen. The fall of the regime is a fundamental act of justice. It is a moment of historic opportunity. We invaded Iraq and we said it's okay to kill the people because they should have overthrown their dictatorship. Why didn't the Iraqi people just overthrow their dictatorship, their totalitarian regime? To build a better future for their country. It is also a moment of risk and uncertainty. We also went and gave them democracy. So people are saying the Syrian Christians, they had some degree of protection by the Assads, but they might be targeted and harassed. Apparently, Jelani says, we're going to protect the minorities. What's the first casualty of war? The truth. The truth is the first casualty of war. Women might lose their rights. The Christians, the Alawites, the triumphant forces aren't the Taliban, but they're a step in that direction. That said, the civil war in Syria hurt everybody, including women and Christians. You're in between a rock and a hard place. So, the hard place beat the rock. The rock beat the hard place. Yay, fucking terribleness. No, the awfulness defeated the terribleness. Syphilis defeated gonorrhea. Yay, syphilis. Man, syphilis is going to bring in a brand new day. Sunni Muslim Islamists have been savagely suppressed in Syria for decades, are finally in charge. So, Sunni Muslim Islamists, that's who's in charge. The new leadership includes forces that have been involved in the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda, although they've disavowed that extremism. We've disavowed it. Enter 14 kilometers into Syrian territory, so Israel has invaded 5 towns. They've already gone 15, miles or so into Syria. Israel just isn't taking the Golan Heights, but they've actually gone into Syria. And they've illegally occupied the Golan Heights since 1967. Israel's carried out 200 airstrikes since yesterday. The IDF invaded and occupied 5 towns near the Golan Heights. Can people not see why Assad had to be removed? It was for Netanyahu. Netanyahu wants a greater Israel. Israelis already have moved into Syria from the Golan Heights, so the Israelis already have since invaded a little bit of Syria. Israel gains for at least for a little bit by the weakening of the enemies like Iran and Hezbollah, not to mention the Assad regime. The Assad regime. So we went from a Biden regime to a Donald regime. Who's going to be the emperor? New Palpatine now. We got one emperor, we got another emperor. And this emperor is not going to be declaring war. He's going to spend those billions of dollars here in America so we can build some homes for our homeless at just $500,000. If we gave a shit about the homeless, we have plenty of fucking money to get them some housing. Instead, they're treated as a PR problem. In every major city, you got homeless people. It's an American issue. It's a national issue. The U.S. government should be the ones taking care of this. By having a hardline Islamist regime next door, if that's the direction Syria goes, it might not be great for the long term. Israel may attempt to annex the Free Syrian Army territories, or maybe America would just give it to them. Turkey wins influence next door. It may use that influence to try to rein in the Kurds around the region. Austin Tice, an American journalist believed imprisoned in Syria since 2012, may be freed. Yeah, free Austin Tice. That'd be, you want to, give me some hope? I want to see an Austin Tice, an American journalist, get out of jail and allowed to go home. Releasing him would be a good way for Syria's new leadership to show its bona fide. You're bona fide good fucking people, you believe in the great spirit of ultimate goodness, then release Austin Tice. Sometimes what follows a terrible regime is a worse regime.